Летний вклад, ваш опыт.
Спасибо большое. Это приятная неожиданность. Очень приятно. Спасибо большое. Спасибо большое за приятную неожиданность. Постарайтесь еще дальше продолжить вклад.
Да. Так, Андрей, иди сюда. Также я хотела бы вручить грамоту нашему представителю здесь, в Германии, который также внес очень большой вклад в подготовку этой конференции, Андреасу Ма. Следующая грамота идет в руки очень красивой женщины, но в то же время доктору медицинских наук Ларисе Климовой. Ну, видимо, мы вручим потом грамоту в более камерной обстановке. Следующая грамота идет в руки не менее прекрасной женщине и также имеющей медицинскую степень Татьяне Таракановой. Но, к сожалению, ее тоже здесь нет. Отсутствующие себя проявили, и эта грамота вручается нашему представителю в США Владимиру Гончарову.
Спасибо.
Следующим сертификатом мы хотели бы почтить отличного человека, который как развивает скэнер-бизнес, так и развивает обучение скэнер-терапии. Это наш представитель в Новой Зеландии Йорк Принц. Спасибо вам за ваш вклад. Следующей грамотой награждается наш представитель в Латвии, которая также вносит большой вклад в развитие скэнер-бизнеса Унда Рота. Следующая грамота в конце своего пути окажется в уже упомянутом ранее месте, в США, где живет прекрасная женщина, отличный специалист в скэнер-терапии Галина Семенова. Следующая грамота вручается нашему представителю в Кипре и в Турции, Измаил Зия. Спасибо за развитие скэнер-бизнеса. Следующая грамота вручается нашему представителю в Мексике, которая также вносит большой вклад в развитие скэнер-движения в Мексике, Кэтлин Лиза Нунан. И, наконец, последняя грамота вручается человеку с огромным багажом знаний, не только медицинского, но и технического характера, потому что он один из тех, кто знает все о том, как выглядит импульс на экране осциллографа. Это Борис Кулишский. Возможно, вы знаете, что на предыдущих конференциях мы ввели такую традицию вручать грамоты
To issue award certificates who have reached some big results in skin therapy or skin business. If we see new people at other conferences, then the certificates will be awarded to them. So it is also pleasant to visit skin conferences, not only useful. And now I'd like to call a volunteer from the audience. Catherine. We have issued a certificate to Professor Lopatko in Vienna. Excuse me, Vladimir Ivanovich, may I call you for a second? Here are the visit cards. I mix them so that everyone had equal chances. I will try to be good at this. Do not be in a hurry. Don't start. Wait a little. We have presents here. We'd like to issue them to you, and we hope you have enough of good luck. This present goes this cap prolonged until the neck. It belongs to who? Who is the lucky guy? She is on her way. Our first lucky person. Congratulations. The next gift is boots, standard boots. And they belong to Noala O'Hara, please. The next gift is the belt, standard belt, from series of ULM. Belongs to Ismail Zia. You are frequent at this place. Again, boots. These boots will belong to Unda. It looks like the stage loves these people. And again, a belt. Katie Nolan. Again, for the second time. Please don't pick the same cards for the second time. Electrode gloves. And who is the lucky guy? Carlos or Dina. And another pair of electrode gloves will belong to... Who is the lucky participant? Oh, this participant was not registered. Mario Carter, is this person present in the audience? Maybe it's a mistake. Okay, pull another card.
Steve Harambiuk. Двойной косметологический электрод.
Double cosmetological electrode.
Уна.
Una wins it.
Похоже, это семейное.
Oh, it's a family tendency to win.
Электроды, карандаши.
Electrode pencils.
Похоже, повтор.
Someone has put two cards.
Никитин Константин Владимирович.
Konstantin Nikitin.
Опять электроды, карандаши.
Again, pencil electrodes.
Анджела Дель Рио.
Angela Del Rio wins. She has gone away.
Хорошо. Мы отдадим этот электрод нашему представителю во Франции.
We will give this electrode to our representative in France, and he will pass it over to Angela later.
А это уже что-то серьезное.
And this is something more serious.
Аппарат Ченс.
Chance device, chance machine, chance Skinner.
Сармите Сайкане. Похоже, в Латвии живут самые удачливые люди.
It looks like the most lucky people live in Latvia. And one more chance Skinner. Is it going to Latvia? Monique Lothar. She is also a representative from France. Sergei Kozrev is looking forward to getting these things to him. Will you pass them over? So that's the end. And now I'd like to make an announcement. Probably many of you were at the seminar devoted to diagnosis 5, made by Tarakanov and Semyonova. After that seminar, we had some people who came to us and asked many additional questions, which concern a little bit other aspects connected with Diagnose 5 application. But the purpose of this seminar was not connected with these diagnoses, but we have this discussion and we can also answer all your questions. And Diagnosis 5 study is very important, so we decided to devote the beginning of the round table discussion to a small presentation which will be made by Irina Irashova. It will concern these aspects and concerning the questions you have asked us.
Hello again. This is our roundtable, and it happened so that while I was making my report about Diagnostics 5, but there appeared several different opinions because I was speaking about one thing in my report, but it looks like you understood or interpreted it slightly differently. So I will just show you some most important points of my report in order to clarify certain things. This technique is it's fine. I have already told that we use three components in our scanner offices. First of all, this is scanner device as such, then a healing blanket, and the third is the RISTA device, which is capable of making a quick assessment of the patient at the moment of. This technique is based on Nakatani method. And if you are more or less familiar with this technique, so you know how this technique is exercised on certain zones. We use external electrodes, and the active electrode that actually measures that are found on the wrist and on the foot. So these points are measured with active electrode, and these points are informative because they represent the condition of the whole meridian. They represent the value of reactivity of this meridian, and it can be measured at this particular point. And so the certain picture is there, and so we can estimate several values. Energy balance, and Nakatani technique allows us to estimate certain adaptation systems such as endocrine system, vegetative nerve system, and we can get the general assessment of internal organs and systems condition. Plus, this device enables us to get certain impact of the meridians, and it also characterizes certain values. And we widely implement it in our practice before, during, and after scanner treatment. And we do it as many times as it is necessary in order to determine whether there is a dynamics of the organism reaction. So this device, Arista, exists in several modifications, but anyway, this is only an additional device. More often than not, it is connected to a computer, so that it is not mobile. There are some mobile modifications, but when we have to do the diagnostics really quickly in order to estimate the system condition, there was a certain technique, and so we randomly called it D5, Diagnostics 5, or Dose 5, sorry. So we're now going to speak about the differences between Dose 5 diagnostics, because certain techniques were taken from Nakatani technique, but not for granted, and there were certain modifications, and it's worthwhile comparing how different devices work using the same, basically the same principle. So I'm going to attract your attention to peculiarities and basic differences. We also test 12 meridians here, 6 pairs of meridians, 6 on the legs and 6 on the arms. But first of all, the very applicator is different. If in a Nakatani method, the applicator is pretty spacious in area, and besides we need cotton cloth wet in physio liquid. But when we measure meridian points in Diagnostics 5, those 5, okay. Okay, when we use this method, we can use those 5 principle when the complaints are non-localized and vague. These may be asthenic syndromes, emotional, sleep disorders, overweight, and other non-localized complaints. We can use this method additionally or independently. What's more important? When we treat chronic patients, when these patients have a lot of complaints and their condition is hypoenergetic and it is not easy to get dynamics of their condition, in this case, this mode is also very helpful and effective. It will help you to solve certain problems. So this is good for the certain group of patients. Then you can also use this mode in order to prescribe certain treatment for patients at home. You can prescribe certain treatments for certain zones, and the patient themselves will easily use this technique in order to treat themselves at home. One more thing. As you can see on this slide, there are a lot of indications on the slide, but what you have to know, the practical use of this method helps you to treat without the so-called aggravations. This technique enables you to avoid aggravations, especially when it comes to really serious patients, in order not to make their condition worse. This method also very well works with people difficult to contact with. This technique is all based on dialogue between a patient and the scanner operator. And when the dialogue is impossible, for example, the patient is unconscious or it is a small child and they can't speak. So you can also use this technique and you can use treatment. This method is basically there are no counter indications, but the cardio stimulator or pacemaker pacemaker is counter indication for this technique, and the other counter indication is just individual unbearability of electricity. There is a certain amount of people who can't bear electricity, so Dose 5 technique looks like this when you switch on the D5 mode, and you can see the two electrodes, one active, one passive. You conduct measurements with a metallic active electrode, and this is the passive electrode, which is to be held in the patient's hand. So when you're measuring, you work with this external electrode, and passive electrode, the patient holds it in his hand. I will tell you in more detail a bit later. In 12 points that I will show you later, you conduct measurements, you use the current, that is a scanner impulse, and we measure the initial reactions in the points. What are the necessary conditions to do it correctly? First, 2 hours before the procedure, the patient mustn't wash their hands. For 2-3 days before the procedure, the patient mustn't have any manicure or pedicure, because this would distort the values. And if you come across this patient, you start working with them in D5 mode, it is necessary to ask the patient to refrain from having these cosmetological procedures during the whole course of treatment. You can find optimal meridians for work daily or every other day, so this is up to you. Besides, before the procedure, it is necessary to have a natural skin condition. The patient mustn't use any creams or lotions or any substances other than natural skin. The patient must be must be at rest. The patient must be very calm. It's best if the patient has a chance to take a little rest before the procedure, in order to have the most realistic and correct. Most typically, we do this diagnostics when the patient is sitting. In case the patient is unable to sit, we do it when the patient is lying. So how do we do the measurements themselves? First of all, when we start measuring, it is necessary to find a certain energy level. With adults, I have a very big practice in using this D5 mode. In the course of many years, I've been doing this for at least 2 years. I have never heard any complaint to the 20 units current with 90 hertz frequency. This has never been painful with any of my patients. But if by any chance you set parameters 90 frequency and you set 20 units energy, and only after that you set the device to D5, because when you have switched the D5 parameter, it is not possible to change the device settings. So when you start measuring, and if the patient suddenly feels a current in this particular point and it feels painful, in this case you can stop the measurement, and I'll tell you later what you are to do next. But you shouldn't change device settings and start the measurement over again, because the result will not be correct. You will start over again from the very first point, but you have already disbalanced the whole organism. So if you start it over again, the result will not be precise. So if anything hinders, you just stop measuring and do it next time. How do we do the measurements? If somebody has worked with RISTA, you know that the patient holds the electrode in their right hand, and we start measuring from the left hand. We measure 3 points on the left hand. There are 3 points on each side of the palm. I will show you all the points. Then the patient takes the passive electrode in his left hand, and you measure again 6 points on the right hand. And then you do the same with their feet. The patient holds the passive electrode in their right hand, and you measure the points on their feet, first left, then right, and the patient changes the hand holding the passive electrode correspondingly. And the whole information that you get is transmitted to the screen, and here you can see how you use the probe in order to measure the points. You know, this technique is very easy to perform, but still it needs some practice, because pressing each point must be even. You must press each point evenly, because if you press some point stronger than others, so the response reaction will be different, and so the resulting figures will not be quite precise. So before you start practicing this technique, you should practice how to press each point evenly. So speaking about the pressure intensity, you know, some patients feel it as some unpleasant sensations if you press certain points that are projection of certain channels. So what character of pressure must be? You know, this ball point, it has certain dimensions. When you place it here, you press it, and the pit that is formed there, okay, it must be formed. So if you take the probe off the skin, you must see a little pit, and the depth of this pit must be like 1/4 of the probe tip. So you need a little practice in order to perform these measurements very evenly, in order to get precise results. So here are the 6 points on the hand. And look at the indications. I have already said that these are classical 12 meridians, and we measure them not classically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but we use the indication of these meridians according to Nakatani approach. H, hand, and points 1 through 6. So they correspond to certain meridians. And the points that are found here are, in fact, entrance and exit points of the meridian. You can see it in more detail further. Oh. So the point on the fourth finger, on the outer side of the fourth finger, this is the point of the 4 furnaces. The point on the thumb is a H1 point, and it corresponds to the lung meridian. And as you can see, it is all indicated and written here. So, but we first measure 3 points in Yan and then 3 Ing. Oh no, sorry. First, we start with 3 in points, and then we come to 3 Yan points. Here are the points on the foot. F means foot, and 6 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And here's their correspondence to the meridians. This is transmitted from the Nakatani method in order to use these convenient indications. Here's the slide. When you are now buying the devices, when we just started producing these devices, the manuals and recommendations were not ready. And for a number of years, they were just being polished, and there were different variants probed. And now we have more or less clear recommendations and manuals that go as an accompanying pack with the device. So in this appendix, you can see more or less detailed descriptions of how to use this technique and the order of examination. The first appendix shows you the succession of all the points. You know, correctness of the measurement depends hugely on the point that you use. You should be very precise measuring in the point of entrance and exit of the meridian. And so these points are all shown in this appendix. Of course, I'm not going to go through all the points right now because we're short of time, but I'll show you just a few pictures and you will see. Look here. First of all, we should learn how to find these points effectively. Of course, this picture must be not very good. Well, I tried to amplify the picture, but I guess it's more or less clear. You know, the nail shape is individual, of course, and so you should draw certain horizontal and vertical lines. This is the nail base, and of course the nail can be of different shapes. So through the very, very top of this nail, you draw this horizontal line, and you find the most conspicuous points, the edge points on each side of the nail, and you draw vertical lines. And so these crossings are the places where you put the probe. So this is for the finger and this is for the toe. Here are the points more exactly on the H1. It's Ing channel. And here are the 5 points or 5 meridians. H2 pericardus channel. Okay, no need to enumerate. You'll be able to see it. When you buy the device, you'll see this all detailed in the manual. And you can also find the manual in the electronic form, I think. Yeah, you can find it on the site as well. Download it. So the first appendix gives you these pictures. Where are the certain points and how to find them correctly on all the fingers next to the nails. So it's about every. Here are the 6 points on the foot. and again, their localization and very detailed description in this appendix. And again, look at this picture. These two pictures, they are from two different devices. This device is the LED device, and the right picture is from SuperPro device. When you have measured all the parameters, when you have placed the probe on this point, you have just only 1 second to place it there and press. So the measurement goes during the second second. So you have only 1 second to press the probe against the skin. And on the second second, the measurement is taken and the parameters are recorded. L and R letters indicate left and right. So basically the indication is the same as in Rista device. Hand and foot are also the same. So all the figures will be shown on the scheme. After you have done all the measurements and after you've got all the parameters, you press the menu button and you can get this processed picture. As soon as you have done all the measurements, the device gives you the following picture. And you can see these kind of sticks. They represent each meridian. The first 6 sticks represent hand meridians, and the next 6 are feet meridians. And so we have to compare these with the greenish corridor across the screen. And you know how they are located, you needn't worry about it, because when we measure and look for certain asymmetry in the meridian system, what is important is to these pretty chaotic sticks, it is important to find the most optimal meridian that you are going to work on. Which meridian is it going to be? Just you find the longest stick, that's all, the longest stick. And if you look at the screen, this, and this are pretty similar, they're longish, but you can't say exactly which one is the longest, what is the difference in parameters. This is the left point, and this is the right. What is the difference between these points? What is the length of this stick? So you refer to the picture on the left. You say 1, 2, 3, 4, and so this is H4. So this is small intestines meridian. So you see the difference, 25, 38. The difference is 12. So now you go here. And again, it's 6 meridians. This is the first. So the first meridian corresponds to the meridian of a pancreas. And so you go here, F1 and 31, 44. The difference is, again, 13. And then you go to this stick, and you see it's F3, it's kidney meridian. You go back to this picture, 28, 35, and again the difference is 13. We're going to speak about it right now. Sometimes there is such a complex choice, you know, the several meridians, they are maximally changed, but they are the same in their length. What do we do in such a situation? Now look here. This is a different example. See that this stick, this is the longest one. No need to compare. You can see it visually. Which meridian is this? It's meridian number 4. It's Eurocyst meridian. So, what else do you need to know in order to choose the impact pattern? Well, first of all, you need to find the maximal difference. In this case, it's 51. But what matters for you is which figure is the smallest one, the left one or the right one. So what you have to understand is the vector of your work will depend on where the smallest figure is, on the left or on the right. So this determines where you will go in your work, to the left or to the right. So this is all very simple, but the meridian which has the biggest difference between its initial values is the reactive meridian, and you're going to work on this meridian even if this does not correspond to the active complaint of the patient. When it does correspond to the active complaint of the patient, it's even better. It's like 2 in 1. It's like dealing with the small asymmetry and complaint at the same time, and the treatment goes quicker and easier. And in this case, if the active meridian corresponds to the complaint, so the healing effect will be greatly enhanced. But the pathology has to do with different conditions, and so this method is non-specific. And then when you have found this reactive meridian, even if it does not correspond to the patient's complaints, you go on working with this meridian. And yeah, we're looking for the biggest difference. There are 2 parameters, left and right, 2 points, left and right, and we start on the left, and the second is on the right. If we have found the meridian that is clearly distinct on the background of the others, if it is only one, so we're happy, we just work with this one. This diagnostics has helped us to find the asymmetry. But look at the first case when we had 3 meridians and they all were similar, the same length. In this case, what do? There are 2 ways. The first way is better. If you think a little bit about the patient's complaints, and yes, you take into account the active complaint, and according to this, you choose the meridian. Yes, you have to limit your choice. As a scanner technologist, you have to be sensitive to patients' complaints and take them into account. The second way is a little bit less interesting. I tried, but I wasn't very happy with the result. If I treated 3 meridians, well, I just tried to treat them all in one procedure. First, it takes too much time. It's very time consuming because I need to spend a considerable amount of time on each meridian. Unfortunately, I didn't like the result. That's why for a few years I always recommend 1 meridian. If you do diagnostics and you see this picture and you don't see the so-called disbalance, so everything is balanced, nothing like goes out of the corridor. You know, these patients are not suitable for D5. You just use other parameters. You use other techniques. Forget about D5 for a while. You can repeat it later if you have such a chance. Again, indications are shown here. And yeah, this is again. Now look at this picture, please. The next application that is there in these manuals is the instruction is about this impact centers. Each meridian will have such a picture. There will be certain area projections. They will be on the skin, and there will be directions according to which you will slide the device, and this will all correspond to the classical meridian. There are tonifying spots, sedating points, entrance, exit, and all the classical points on the meridian will be depicted on the meridian. So you'll be working on the skin in these projections. What is the important peculiarity? When you start working, and again, this is the rule that is given to you, and I've spoken that you need to find the value, the smallest value that is on the left or on the right, because the vector depends on this. On this picture, you can see 1, 2, 3, and so on. So all these pictures are drawn in your instructions, in your manuals, when the smallest figure is on the left side. So you take this picture where there are many figures, and you look like it was on that picture, 6312. So the smallest value is on the right side. So you will be working along the opposite vector. So you'll be working from the bigger figure to the smaller figure. If the right value is smaller, so you'll find the zone to be treated, and you'll see that zone 11 is the last zone to be treated, and you'll work the 11th, the 10th, the 9th, the 8th, and so on and so forth, in order not to enumerate everything. This is the main thing to be remembered, but again, it is all printed, and you start treating each zone using the scanner device. I use coaxial electrode most often, and when you start treatment, you strive to do what? You place the electrode on the spot, and on each point you select individual energy. This is not like we do it always. We have chosen the same individual current and apply it to all the treatment zones. Now, here we select the current individually for each point. It must be a subcomfort current. These are not the points. These are certain points on the skin. So when you have placed the electrode, so this current must irradiate somewhere. It is easiest to get the sensation of irradiation on feet and hands. What sensations may there be? Either either the flow of current or spread of current, or it may be or it may be a pressure, slight pressure, like it goes in different directions. Or you may feel, the patient rather, will feel the deep penetration. It's like it goes deep into the skin layers. So when you have caught this sensation, of course you work in the constant dialogue with the patient. As soon as you have caught this sensation, you stop here and you stand on each point for the same amount of time. If you take 1 meridian for work, you'll spend a minimum of 20 minutes on that. And the amount of points found on the meridian, you look for that. And so each meridian, as you know, has different amount of points to be treated. And so you divide this general time into certain portions, and you spend the equal amount of time on each point. But each time when the patient says, "No, I have lost this sensation," you can either raise the energy a little bit, or you can shift or wobble the applicator here on this point. Look how you work. You work on the same meridian cyclically. You start on the one point and you finish in the same point. This is when the meridian starts from the central position. Like this point is located in the center of the body. If you work on other meridians, these points can be placed symmetrically. I'll show you. So you start working from figure 1, and so the smaller value is on the left side, and you start working from sedation. Then you come to the other side of the meridian and you work according to activation rules. You know about activation and sedation. So here you don't need much knowledge. You're not a reflexologist. You don't need to know so much. You just take the picture like this on the manual. Look here, I'll show you the pics. Here's the pic. Point 1, the beginning, the end. Here's the application. Here is the meridian of 3 furnaces, and look at the amount of positions to be treated here. 22. So if you work for 2 minutes on each point, that will make 44 minutes. So you should plan your time carefully, because your procedure is about 20 minutes, so divide it equally among all the points. For 2 years, I worked with 2 groups of patients. On purpose, I chose quite difficult patients with which my more traditional techniques didn't work very well. The first group was a group of women in the climacteric period. And they have quite a number of specific and non-specific symptoms characteristic for this period in their life. These symptoms are very difficult to eliminate, and I got very good results. I started using general techniques, and when I could see that there's no active dynamics, I read this work on meridians, and sometimes I did several procedures in a row. When I could see that the same meridian has repeated, and then then I went. So if on one procedure I got one meridian, and on the second procedure everything changed and there was the other meridian that was reactive, I went on working on this, and when I had these dynamics, I worked on meridians, and I got very good effect. And the second group of the patients that I also watched and got very good results. This was a patient with aging problems, dizziness, neck problems, sclerosis, degenerative processes in the spine column. And so these are quite difficult patients. So elderly people, in fact. And they find it very difficult to cope with sorts of aggravations. And so I worked on these two groups of patients, and I liked the results very much. And you can't imagine how quick effect is. You don't have to wait long for the effect. Imagine the situation. They have visited all sorts of doctors, they have taken all sorts of medicines, and then they come and we use this interesting technique, we use this interesting principle, so please use it, and it is all combinable, and you should alternate and combine, and it all works very well. Yeah, you could see this with your own eyes. All you have to do is to find these points correctly, and you have to learn how to impact them correctly. This is all the difficulty. As for the counting the differences and looking at the picture is not difficult at all. So please try, and we would happily wait for some feedback, because we're very interested in your experiences and impressions. We would be happy to get some feedback from you. One more thing. Look at the picture of these meridians, and in the same appendix you will find all the possible pathological conditions that correlate to a certain meridian. As a reflexologist, you don't have to know the whole system, but you have a sufficient amount of prompts there. It is very interesting when you see the difference on no difference on several meridians. So in this difficult situation, you just open the prompt and you have something to proceed from. Yeah, but again, I repeat, it's best to choose one meridian and to work on this smaller asymmetry. So I got very good results. That's all I wanted to say. Here the description. Thank you very much for your attention. I tried to do my best in this short amount of time, because we have a certain course of and we learn, we teach people how to do it, and we have a course of education. Practice, practice, and practice. As you know, practice makes perfect, so I just try to give an extra report. If you want to ask questions, I would happily answer them. If you don't have any questions, we'll go to the roundtable talk. When you conducted this examination, listen. As I understand, the one group of your patients were in the state of menopause. Some of them, this was slightly different. You know, some of them were in menopause. Some of them still have their cycle, but you know, their psycho-emotional condition was already kind of, not normal. And so, how much time did the course of treatment take?
Без диагностики, так скажем, стабильной вот такой положительной динамики.
There was no stable dynamics, and I couldn't get it after having only one course, one session. They actually came back and we repeated the session after 1 or 2 months. Then we had a break, and then we had another session. And now this is much shorter. Actually, I never do this technique as first. I, of course, perform classical RISTA. Actually, the picture of RISTA diagnostics and diagnostics 5, the picture is actually the same. But if you perform these diagnostics, you will get a bit different results, and you will get a much better picture using different dimensions, different parameters, using different electrodes. You can't compare these two methods. The functional state diagnostics, which we are used to do using RISTA, using meridians, functional points. Here, actually, you can't estimate it like this. This is only estimating meridians. So I usually start working with the women using their general diagnostics. First, RISTA, then D5. Actually, after 1 or 2 procedures, I got the result. When I got this result, I was so surprised. Actually, I've got a huge experience of working with women in menopause. Actually, when I took a control group and worked on that, I was really shocked. The more disbalance they had, this is your patient. You have to work in D5. It was one session. I've performed one session and they feel really well. I hope in a year you will present us a report about it with statistics. One more question. What about the therapy? I mean, drug therapy. Was it continuing? Was it going on during your treatment? Actually, I've made a conclusion already pretty long ago. When patients like this come to me, I never cancel conventional therapy. So, when we have good condition, we just reduce doses of drugs and medicines. So they have good condition for several days. And then lots of women, they decrease their doses of drugs, and some of them even cancel. So all of those medicines shouldn't be canceled right now at once. I usually continue my treatment alongside with the drug therapy. Thank you so much. Any more questions? There's one more.
Я здесь.
Ага, непонятно. Он на каком языке вы говорите? Непонятно.
Наверное, по-русски.
Для русского это 6 канал.
Ну все, я слышу. Тогда микрофон.
Микрофон. Да, сейчас. Наденьте наушники.
Ich habe eine Frage zu dem SuperPro, und zwar zu dem speziellen Modus, dem Doppel-Biofeedback-Modus, dass ihr das vielleicht kurz und
И реле 6.
I have a question about SuperPro device. Actually, I want you to explain about two-buyer mode, how to use it. I got some information. I think it's a very important technique. Actually, I'd like you to dwell for some time on that. Could you please explain? Unfortunately, it's very difficult
Доклад, это сейчас есть, конечно, школы у нас.
to explain it. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to explain it so short. Actually, there are lots of parameters making SuperPro different from all the other devices. The last position. Actually, you put on bio.
Прибор.
When you put the device on the skin, so actually you put it on the skin using a certain gap parameter. I'm sorry, I've missed it partly in English. So you have to change intensity and the gap onto the electrode. Kind of feedback. Then when you switch on bioparameter, there is also biofrequency, BioF. And when you switch them both on, the frequency starts changing while you're working. Frequency changes, intensity changes, and the gap changes depending on biofeedback from your organism, from your body. So you work on smaller symmetries and then work until positive dynamics, but the result comes much quicker because these new bioparameters are introduced into presets. There is an option order, and there are two parameters to work in acute conditions and in chronic conditions. And actually, you automatically choose optimal parameters, most effective parameters for working in both conditions. But all those parameters are better to be used in local zones. So D0 or D1. Have I answered your question? Yeah. I was talking about BioF, the second parameter. You have to find this page and switch it on when you switch on the device. Have I answered your question? I'm really sorry I lost the beginning of Irina's answer because there were some technicalities. So as we have no questions about the presentation, please, committee members, take your places. Okay, please. Please come out. People whose names I call, you will have to answer the questions. Наталья Ивановна, please come out here.
Вроде бы всех увидела.
Будем нести отчет за всех.
И что?
Давай распределимся. Ты будешь английский, на английский, а на русский. Так будет легче, нет?
Давай.
Мы
щелкать
So welcome, please, members of the committee. Please come out. Take your seats. You'll be answering questions. Actually, we have more people on the committee than we have in the audience. So if you have a question, please raise your hand. I will come up to you with a mic. So any questions? Any questions about the presentations, reports, practical seminars, workshops? Maybe you have some personal questions. If you're not ready to ask it now in public, you can write it and I will answer later. We will answer later. Has anybody got any questions?
And I will also add that the teaching and technology I think it's unavoidable and necessary, and it's kind of normal. As soon as technique stops developing, it is doomed to death. Techniques should change, it should evolve, and this actually shows that the people behind the technique are not idling. They are working very intensely. And on each language, it must be perceivable and possible to other people. And I think it is very important to say thank you to the organizers of this conference. They have spent a lot of time and effort in order to make it possible. In order we felt comfortable and could communicate, I think we should thank them in person. I'm very thankful to Marina Agdalevich, who was in such a fuss and hurry, and I'm not sure if she ate and slept properly in these days, but she indeed, and her assistants, Sasha, and translators, all the people who were trying their best for the whole thing to work as well as it is possible, and Yosif Semikatov and Mikhail Anatolyevich and Irina Yeshova and Lopatko, Mr. Lopatko, Vladimir Ivanovich, and Boris. And Kulishsky Boris, these people, all these people. And of course, we mustn't forget Natalia Ivanovna. It's not, enumerating everybody is not a means to an end, but we should I understand that, all our communication was provided with a great number of efforts, so let's thank them. Thank you very much, Konstantin Vladimirovich. Thank you very, very much. I think we should also be thankful to everybody present. I think we are just followed by triangles of all sorts. If we didn't organize the conference, it wouldn't be there. But if you didn't come to the conference, we would have nothing to organize. But at the same time, if the participants didn't come here from all the parts of the world, there will be nobody to teach. So thank you, everybody here in this room. I fully agree. More than that, there is one more idea. Everybody here, we all act in the name of a great idea, which is the health of people of different nationalities. There are other things beside money, we should think about people, and we should work as a one single whole in order to teach people as effectively as possible. Are there any questions left?
10 years ago again, I first introduced this system to Dr. And he told me,
Да.
when I heard about this scanner, and I read about this, I first discussed this situation with Dr. Dimitri Nikolov. He's a neurosurgeon from Bulgaria, living in Cyprus. And he said, don't believe Ismail. Okay? Then later, after 10 days, I sent him a lot of information in Russian, which I didn't do. And he came to me and said, let's go to the courses. 1 year later, Joseph asked in another course, what do you think about SCAN? To all of us. And he went up and said, I didn't believe in this system in the beginning. But now I cannot work without it. So he said, Yaşasın scanner. Let scanner live for long. That's what he said after 1 year. Now he's in Cyprus. He's working 9 hours a day, only with scanner. And he's a neurologist. I wanted to share this experience.
Спасибо. Ну, если вопросов больше нет, то на этой позитивной ноте можно считать нашу конференцию закрытой. Спасибо всем присутствующим за присутствие.